Oh, gotta send out the Twitter stuff. Stream is now live. And as you can see, we're going through an exciting loading bar right now because Unity crashed right before the stream started. So, in the meantime, I'm going to be doing my Twitter stuff, and then we'll do the official, like traditional start of the stream stuff and whatnot. Um, let's see, the stream's now live. I was going to go over something else besides lighting. Uh, hashtag game dev. And you know what we also need is we need a nice little image. So we got a game development, Unity, text request, media, social uploads, and I'll grab my advertisement one that I love to throw in there. All right. I think we're good. Okay. So, hello everyone. This is Chris Ingerson, and it is February 23rd, and this is the February 23rd TextQuest Dev Stream. Tonight we're going to be going over lighting. I gotta get back to where I was because Unity crashed right before the stream started. So we're gonna get back to Castle Quarters. I have. I've been thinking about doing a lot of different lighting changes for a while, and one of the things that I have decided to give a try is deferred lighting. So before I've been using the traditional forward rendering lighting method, which is actually not necessarily a lighting method as much as a shading method, but anyway, which is the default way to render objects, and it has the most support. So basically, any computer ever can do forward rendering. But in changing to deferred rendering, I am somewhat limiting my audience. Not really, though, because it's basically as long as your computer exists or was made after 2006, then you can still do things just fine. Um, but I mean, there is conceivably the possibility that people don't have a computer from the past 10 years. It's possible, I guess. But I figure that it's such a small likelihood that I don't really think it's going to affect anything. So I'm going to make the jump to deferred lighting, which I have already done. I swapped over. And I haven't seen the supposed effects, the limitations yet, and I don't know if that's because Unity handles that for you or if there's something else that I'm just missing. So if we go over to edit project settings and then player, you can see that our rendering path is now deferred. It was forward. So I'm going to be messing around with that. And the main reason I did that is because I've just been having a terrible, terrible time trying to get lighting to work for doors. Basically, I can't find a good way to do it. Um, and deferred lighting will allow me to have a lot more real time lights. So that means that I can handle doors a lot better because I will have real time lights that I can just stick either right next to the doors if they need to be there, which I've done with a couple of these torch lights, or in general, just doors will be able to have light react a lot better to them. So that was one of the main reasons that I wanted to move over to deferred rendering, and I'll be messing around with other techniques. Probably not tonight. Stuff like light probes, I'm still kind of iffy on, mostly because it's witchcraft, and I don't know if there's even a good way to do light probes. Honestly, it's just so. But we're going to be experimenting with different light sources today. Probably trying stuff like We might try to do emissive particles, maybe. That'll be an interesting thing to try. Where are we so far? Where have I gotten since the last dev stream? Last dev stream was last Thursday. No, I don't think I streamed last Thursday actually because I think I had a late work night and that threw things off. So it's been about a week. At least I hope it's been only a week. It might have been longer. It's hard to tell. It's been late nights. Um, not huge amounts of changes, mostly small stuff. You can see that I've placed a lot more lights in the scene. A lot more lights. That doesn't sound natural. There are more lights in the scene. I don't know, having a qualifier or quantifier doesn't sound right for me for some reason. So what I've decided to do is try to add basically torches along here. I haven't modeled them out, which is why I only have the lights right now. I wanted to do some test light map baking to see how it would look. Hello, 18 Markwick. I am stretched. Like always, though. How are you? Let's see. So, I am also using these torch lights as a way to break up our hallway. If you remember from a previous stream, I was talking about how I don't like how empty this hallway feels. So I originally had placed a bunch of armor sort of along these walls to try and help mitigate that. But I think I can actually come up from the top because I got rid of some unnecessary geometry, so it's easier to look at. So originally I had a bunch of suits of armor along these walls, and they weren't really adding anything. They were kind of just making it more complex, I think, rather than making it less boring. So I have basically replaced most of them with these lights, because the lights will help break up the monotony of the wall without adding complexity, meaning things that you want to interact with. They also have the benefit of brightening up this area. So if we play, which might take a little bit because it crashed, so it probably has to clear some caches. I think that just having these lights actually does a really, really good job of breaking up the boredom. Now, in addition to this, I think, and I remarked on it a while ago, I think I'm going to shrink this level by about 10%. And I started to do it before, but I ultimately went back to the original size, which this is scaled up by like 200% basically from its original size. Or not 200%, 200 times. So it's very, very large. And I feel like it's almost too large. Almost. So we're going to go here and activate our wonderful cutscene, which still needs some work, I think. Although I still like the beard. Let's see, what else have I done? I have updated the fresco painting and a couple of other substances in here because these were really old substances. They didn't quite have the correct workflow. So texture-wise, this room has been redone a little bit. You can see, if we go to the corners, these now have the mortar corners. Mortar corners. I don't know what to call those. What is that? That is a lighting error, I think. No, that's a normal freaking right. I'm also looking at I'm getting some frame stuttering there. Give me a second. I'm gonna turn on stats. Okay. Just my imagination. I thought it was stuttering. We seem to be fine now. That could have just been me imagining it. Okay. Well, anyway. I've been looking into the height mapping issue or the height distortion issue I've been having, so you can see as we get close to these corners, it sort of looks like the texture is peeking out, and when we move around to a different side, it looks like it adjusts. So I'm looking into fixing that. I don't know if it's a substance issue, so you can sort of see it here. It looks like the edge is getting surrounded by gray. Then if we come from the left, it looks correct again. I don't know if that's a substance issue or what, but it's kind of frustrating, and I want to figure out how to fix it. So that's something I'm looking into. It seems to just randomly fix itself at random, so I'm not entirely sure what to do there. But I am looking into it. And you can see here, like with the magic, how there's this gray outline, which is really weird because magic doesn't even have a height map. So it's just getting this like arbitrary height map data shoved in there somewhere, and I don't know what's causing it. But great mystery of life. But aside from that, yeah, all of the walls and the corners now have these mortar effects on them, so that the texture looks a little bit nicer. I gotta change that one actually. I don't think it did it to any of these bottom ones. It's on the side, but it's not on the ledge. Anyway, so that's where we are right now. If I go ahead and open this, I broke my arm and leg yesterday. Flu. Ah man, that is brutal. Well, I hope you start feeling better, because it is not fun to have injuries and be sick and just have basically everything going wrong at the same time. It is a terrible feeling. Anyway, let's see, where was I? So this is also one of the reasons that I've been sort of hesitant to shrink the level, is because these rooms are actually sized very, very appropriately, and I actually like the size that they come in at. So it's really just the hallway and this sort of throne room. Still feels like it's chugging to me for some reason. It could be that it's not actually chugging. It could be that it's I have a variable frame rate right now, so it's dipping, and I'm noticing the dip occasionally. I mean, it's dipping like 20 frames from 200 FPS to 180 FPS or something like that. But you can't drop that many frames and not notice it as a person. So anyway, and it looks like I think my light maps are all correct. I might want to go through at some point and make sure all of my light maps on all of these objects are correct, because this looks like it's getting artifacts. But it's weird because it's not on any of the other ones, so who knows? That could be from anything. In any case, go ahead and open this. So these are all real. Oh, this is a real-time light. I think this is a real-time light. This is a real-time light. I think the light on the other side of that door is a real-time light. So I'm trying to use more real-time lights just because of the switch to deferred. Ooh. That, I'm guessing, is an artifact, because that... Or, more likely, for some reason, it's probably these two lights casting a shadow, which makes me think... I'm going to head stop playing. Move all the way over here. Click on this. See if these guys are even casting shadows. Haha! They are not casting shadows. So let's fix that. Ah, dang it. Of course not. Right. Oh man, yeah, everything's just going wrong for you. Well, that's just how life works, I suppose. I'm going to turn lighting on for these doors. I'm assuming that means that these guys aren't on either. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to turn it on for this guy too. Okay. I'm willing to bet that I had it turned off because of the way that it was working before. They were probably getting weird lighting effects because I wasn't using real-time lighting. So, now let's try opening those doors and see what they look like. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off my triggers. Doors, logic. Let's see. Triggers. There we go. Let's just turn you off. Alright. I've also changed my armor to use a non-lit sprite, so it's not going to self-illuminate. It's going to use the lighting from the area. Huh. Oh, never mind. I was saying, it looks like it's anti-aliasing itself better. That could just be because I'm... Maybe it's just less noticeable because it's not bright yellow. In any case, should be able to run past this without triggering anything. Hit open. Okay, so now we're getting, yeah, actual shadows being cast. Although it looks like it's, weirdly enough, not calculating out that edge there. I probably need to change that light to a real-time light as well. Let's see. Let's open this up. Oof. Man, switching to real-time lights really upped the batching. So I'm getting 500 batches. I'll have to look into hardware limitations, see if I have to. I bet I could get that number down if I actually occlude stuff, because I'm not doing any sort of occlusion culling right now. So I'm rendering, like, when I'm looking at this, even though I'm only seeing, you know, the carpet, the floor, the bed, the curtains, and the wall, basically. I'm probably also rendering out most of the throne room and most, if not all, of the hallway, too. So that's probably adding a couple of extra frames, or a couple of extra batches. So let's see. I'm also curious as to why I'm getting this artifacting. So if you'll notice, it looks like I'm getting like high sort of compression on my textures from my substance files, which is very strange. So yeah, here we go. Now we can see the actual shadow being cast a lot better. That comes out a lot nicer. And we might... Oh, dang it. My shadows aren't working anymore. Right before the stream, I was getting shadows from this. I bet it's because I switched to deferred rendering. And maybe that messed things up. Okay. Well, I'll have to look into that. And this is, again, the normal issue I was talking about, or the height map issue. You can see it, like, all over the place. It just looks wrong. It's really weird. Anyway, let's see if I can get through this. If things are okay enough to... Yeah. So even when things are broken, there's enough code in there to safely actually get the stuff working. I think I need to change the lever to be non-static so that the lights can affect it properly. Coming down here, all of these lights look appropriate. They cast shadows nicely on the various objects. Okay. And this is going to be fun. Ooh, don't like that. I wonder what causes that. That sort of, I think you might be able to see it on the stream, although, wow, my stream is really choppy. Or at least it looks like that on my screen. You can see this sort of light line that gets either better or worse depending on the angle you view it at. I'm not sure what causes that. I'll have to look into that. I mean, that is right where a seam is, but these seams should not be causing that. So it's probably some way that things are being handled when they're drawn to the screen. Anyway, so I'm curious. I assume this will work. No, it was too much to ask. It was too much to ask for a level transition. Okay. So that's where we are currently with all of the lights and whatnot. Let's see. What else do I have? Click on this. So this is casting shadows. Excuse me. But no shadow. Go figure. Double click on that. Dang it. Let's see. Oh, right. One of the other things that I wanted to try is click on this, come over here and take a look at the material for this wall. So this is a substance file, castle wall, and it's set to be 1024 by 1024. Let's up that to 2048 by 2048. Hit apply. That doesn't completely solve our problem. It makes it look better, but you can still see that artifacting. I wonder. Let me try raw. Okay, so it's compression artifacts. Oh my goodness. Wow, that is... Okay, let me change it back to compressed. So we're getting artifacts this way, and our file size shrinks dramatically. I mean, that makes sense. It's compressed. Can we go to raw, no alpha? Apply. That fixes that problem. Saves us some space megabytes wise, but oh, that's pretty brutal. Right. And let's see, we have metallic. Right, we have different roughness values, which is not great. So we can go back to 1024 by 1024, I think. Hit apply. And that, wow, I didn't even notice it change. So that's pretty good, and that shrinks us down to 5 megabytes. Okay. I would be fine with that. So I guess I need to keep my textures in a raw format, which sucks horrendously because the compression is just the compression is just so terrible on it. I can't really have that because if I change it back from raw to compressed, just look at that. It's really bad. Just out of curiosity. It's 1.3 megabytes if I do that. Let's change the compression type to compressed no alpha. Hit apply. Oh. I can't do that, can I? Oh, well that's interesting. So I have to do raw. Ugh, gross. I can't actually do no alpha on these things because if I don't, my metallic layer won't have its roughness layer. That's completely problematic. So the way that roughness works is it's actually stored in the alpha of your metallic map, which is just great. And am I excited for the Division? I when it first was announced, I thought it was a cool idea, and I've been watching gameplay trailers of it recently, but I haven't. It's a Tom Clancy game where you can shoot someone in the head and they don't die, and that to me is wrong. I know they're talked about like doing the whole like MMO thing, but you can't have a Tom Clancy game where people don't die as soon as they're shot in the head. Because not only is that a thing in most shooters in general, so you're trained to expect that as a player, but also in Tom Clancy games, which Tom Clancy is known for his almost slavish devotion to realism. So it's just really weird. So I don't know. I might look into it at some point, but I'm not gonna get it on launch day. Definitely not. All these things need to be adjusted again. I'm currently going back and retexturing this entire model because it was done, like I said before, with old textures, but also well, that's odd. And you know what? I am also going to go ahead and, because I'm currently just going around doing nothing. Let's go to, let's see, indirect intensity. Let's drop that down to 3. Drop bounce boost down to 4. I'm going to rebuild my lighting. I have no idea how well this is going to work on the stream because I've already built it, so it's cached, so it shouldn't take too long to actually build. But I'm not sure how intensive it's going to be on my computer, if I'll be able to maintain a good stream while trying to build. So this will be fun. Let's go ahead and try building again. I should be able to move around in the meantime, and we can continue talking about the way things look. Well, I say that. Forgot about that. While it's importing everything, everything's basically solid black. Or, well, it's not black, it's just really dark. So, there's a lot of lighting stuff that I'm trying out currently. Is the long and short of everything. Um, Going back, updating substances that they were the first substances I made to try and make things a little more interesting. Um, I guess that kind of sucks that I have to not compress these textures, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, honestly, because these textures are generated at runtime anyway. So I don't know what I don't know what that format is for, really. I mean, it's obviously the texture sort of type, but can't really do compressed, which is tedious. Last time I was here, there was another guy here who's making game. Are you thinking of Wundy? The game, Garrett Polk? I assume that's what you're talking about. Because he's trying to get his game on Steam Greenlight right now. So we probably won't do another bake. Oh no! The video is checking. Actually, it doesn't say I've dropped any frames. I guess that was just my Twitch video player refreshing. Um, okay. So yeah, we're not going to build another light map. I was just curious how it would handle. And I'm also curious to see what the new light is going to look like. Because originally, to try and get a lot of light bouncing around in here, I had to turn the bounce intensity for this level like way up. Insanely high. And that didn't really work, but it was the only option I had in forward rendering. So hopefully, deferred rendering will sort of get rid of that problem that I have. I don't think now we got to import everything. So, get a drink. We might try. See, it already feels a lot better. We have the same relative amount of light inside. Not a ton, but the addition of these extra lights, I think, really helped cause the helped counterbalance all the darkness or the unnatural dimness of our level so far. So, you know what I need to. Basically, all of these are going to be. Okay, so this guy, I actually need to change from baked to real time. So, that's fun. Basically, all of these lights in this room, in the bedroom, are real time because they are either going to be cast on a moving object, like our bed, or an object that is animated, like our chest. Hooray! So many lights that are going to be real time, and that's just not performant and pairing at all whatsoever. So this needs to be real time too. Let's see. This guy real time. Okay, yeah. Gotta turn off our bounce intensity, I suppose, just so those warnings go away. Fortunately, some can be baked a little bit, but I might I might just end up switching to a style that's not baked at all. Um, okay, well, thanks for stopping by. Uh, Always good to see people that are familiar to the stream. Um, so, I think we might do some modeling real quick and try to get. Actually, you know what? might just do a particle effect, and we're basically like doing everything in reverse of what I would normally do. So normally I would model out my torch, and then make the material, and then the particle effect, and then add the light. And in this case, I'm going to add the light, then make the particle effect, and then probably model it, then texture it. So that's a little odd. So we're going to go ahead, and I think I already have this. Flame Moth, I probably called it Fire. There should be Fire. Here we go. So I have a Fire particle effect. Just drag in here. And I use this for the torches in the latter parts of the game. I might want to slow it down a little bit. So where is this? Here we go. So let's go ahead and shorten our emission rate. And actually, we're going to end up, if we go with a deferred rendering path, we might be able to make these all emissive. Maybe, I don't know if that'll actually do anything, so we'll see. First things first, go to Renderer, go to Fire Matte. I'm going to duplicate this. Let's see what we got for particles, if they have an emissive. Okay, I didn't think they did, so they okay. So if that's the case, then I don't actually need to even have a second material. I can just hit delete on that. So that answers my question. I thought you could do emissive particles, but there has to be a way to do it. And I bet it's some complicated setup. So let's shorten our emission rate to 1. Actually, no, we'll go 1.5. And then we're going to open it up. Go to our Fire Orange. Again, go to emission. We're going to drop this down to 3. Have our red emission. We're going to drop that down to 2. So orange is our most common color. Yellow is our second most common color. Or red is our second most common color, and yellow is our third most common color. Now they are all coming in at the same time, which is not what we actually want. So we should have a start delay right here. So a start delay of 0.1 on the red, start delay of 0 on the orange, and a start delay of, we'll do 0.2 on the yellow. So now we're getting a little bit more of an even fire, although we're getting these spurts here. I don't like having this break. So we're going to bump orange emission up to 4. Or actually, you know what? We'll keep this at 3. We'll slow them down. So start speed, we're going to bump that down to 1.5. That might be a little too fast still. Start speed of 1.5. And start speed of 1.5. So now we have, it still feels a little fast. Let's go all the way down to 1. That just means that our particle will be coming out with a force of 1. So it's not getting very far anymore. But it doesn't look that bad. So if I were to position this here, copy this, then paste this. Values. Oops. There we go. So now our torch would be right there. That's our particle effect going. I'm going to go ahead and stop this. I'm going to say, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and say play on awake here. And I'm going to play. So now when we come over to this corner, we should be able to actually look at the particle effect as it plays to get a sense of what it's going to look like. So that's pretty decent. I do think it's a little too... Well, actually, it's not that bad. It probably needs to have a little bit more randomization to it, I think. But for the most part, yeah, it's all too organized. Let's try to get not randomized rotation direction. Let's get our shape going. Probably want it to be more like a box. A box. Oh, that's interesting. It broke the reference. Oh, I also am playing it. Okay. So let's change our shape to a box. And all that's doing is now, instead of having a single point that all of our particles are emerging from, we actually have sort of a general area. So we're going to do the same with these guys. Change it from a cone to a box. And from a cone to a box. So now all of our fire is coming out from this, sort of like a random point in this this box. We can make it smaller to try and sort of group things a little closer together, which we'll probably do. We'll make it like 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Now, unfortunately, I can't edit these all at the same time because the multiple particle effects can't be edited at the same time, which sucks. But you know, it's not the end of the world. It just means that we have a longer sort of process to go through. So now, if we come look at this, we should actually have a more sort of widespread and randomized particle effect. I like that. I think that looks pretty good. Once we get a torch going there, it'll look even better. And actually, we might even get the torches to be emissive instead of having a light here, which would mean that our torch material actually is creating the light as opposed to having a point light, which that could be more interesting. But we'll see how that looks. Probably not going to get around to modeling tonight. So I like that. That looks pretty decent fire-wise. I think that the lighting works pretty well. Need to get a sound effect for that too, so that's going to be fun. Won't be too bad. See what it looks like from a distance. As you want to try and judge this, it's not bad. You can just see the chugging happen once I come over here. Anyway. I am tired, man. Let's see. Is there anything overly wrong with this? No. Looks decent from down the hall lengthwise. It looks good here. Okay. So that's good particle effect. I'm going to go ahead and select this. Fire effects. I'm going to make, I probably should have done this before, but I'm going to group particle effects by level. So, intro, create folder, castle, and now I'm going to go ahead and drag this into castle so I have a separate prefab from what the other torches are going to be using. Let's change this to torch fire. I'm going to change this to be -90 rotation-wise. Not sure why it defaulted to that stupid rotation. Ah! Hate it when it does that. One of my biggest pet peeves is when a floating point rounds to a lower number that's almost the same, but it's clearly not. So, okay. So our particle effect looks nice. Our light is adequate. It's hard to say. It's kind of falling off pretty quickly. We might end up having to change this a little bit. So it's got a default radius of 10 meters, which is not bad. Fall off might be a little extreme. But it's probably fine. Um, hmm. Okay. I'm not gonna worry about those values too much right now. I'll be tweaking the lighting stuff as I do more research into it. Because like I said, I haven't really sat down too much before to try and figure out what good lighting parameters are. I've made rough, ballpark estimates, but I haven't really looked into it too much. But that, in addition to having to make all of my textures non-compressed, is problematic. Um, and hmm, I wonder, actually. Hmm. Well, it's art day, so excuse me. I'm gonna look at my art, so my original SVG textures for my substance files there. So I'm gonna go to textures, levels. I'm sorry, environment, I guess. Intro, Castle, Illustrator. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open up Castle Walls. CastleWalls.ai. And this is CastleWalls.sps. Okay, so I'm curious. I did. I did. Okay. Um, hmm. So fun fact. Well, not fun fact. Fun theory. Um, these textures were made way back. Wow, they have a multitude of problems. These textures were made way back when I was first doing Substance and I was first using Illustrator. So, ha, 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 ha. Bit myself. Bit myself really hard. Anyway, um, so what happened was when I exported these originally, Substance can't read text, so I can't have text objects in my SVGs when I export them. But I figured out after my first sort of initial round of textures that when you save out an SVG, you can actually have it turn your text into outline objects. So that way I can retain the text in Illustrator, so if I have to make adjustments later on, it's really easy. I didn't do that with these. So what I did with these is I actually did all of the work and then I um, manually changed them all into outline fields so that they would be read correctly in Substance. That's why whenever I click on these, you're seeing all of these points show up. So it's not just text objects; these are actually paths. Now, that in and of itself is not the worst thing. The worst thing is I'm willing to bet that I did not change the aliasing on my text. And it's hard to prove that. I have no way to prove that. I mean, it looks like I did. So maybe I was okay there. Darn, I was really hoping actually that I had royally screwed that up, and that would explain the artifacting because it was trying to do a gradient. But I don't know if this is actually enough to cause that artifacting that we were seeing before. It certainly would explain why we don't see it on other textures. So if we go down to, say, tile, like tile is fine. It doesn't really have that bad of artifacting. I mean, there's some, you can see it. If we go to grass, grass doesn't really have that much artifacting. Doesn't have any, as far as I can tell. I guess the main one to test against is going to be this hallway down here. Let's see. Getting text from work to make sure, so I need to make sure that things don't blow up. So these stone blocks are compressed. Let me check to see what file size they are. They're at 1024 by 1024, and they're compressed, and they look fine. Not great, but they certainly don't have the alias, or not the alias, the artifacting that the other stone block is having. Now that could be because maybe for some reason white is throwing things off because our castle walls are white. It's hard to say. I doubt that. I doubt that is the problem. Um, hmm. So I'm not entirely sure. I would probably have to remake that entire texture. But I'm kinda. Well, it's worth a shot. Before we do anything drastic, I'm gonna go ahead and play here. Because I might not need to worry about it, honestly. So this is what this looks like in Substance Player. And what's weird is you're not seeing any artifacting at all. Neither do I. And we can bump this up to, and that's at 512. That's not even at 1024. At 1024, it looks great. This is what 2K looked like in Unity. And now, when I set it to be uncompressed, that's a similar look that I'm getting. Which makes me think that Substance Painter and Substance Player is using uncompressed texture files whenever it looks at things, which makes sense. Makes sense, to be fair. But that makes it really, really frustrating to try and get things to look right. So, great. I will have to look into that because the reason that you compress your textures is so that their file size remains small, but since I'm using Substance, those files don't even exist until you run them. So there's no real worry to keeping it small because it just gets generated and then cached. But I suppose the problem comes. Okay, it's hard to say honestly. I'll have to do more research and see if I can come up with a good way to get around that. If not, I'm just gonna have to have uncompressed textures be generated, which kind of sucks. Um, and I'm also checking my freaking phone because I have work sort of buzzing in a little bit. Um, well, I don't want to end the stream early, but I might have to. Um, well, not that it's a particularly exciting stream anyway, since we're just talking mostly about lighting theory. So there's a lot of art sort of back end stuff that I'm going to be doing, messing around with, trying to fix, because half of it's my own ineptitude and the other half is sort of buried Unity functionality, or unfortunate compression artifacting. Um, so I'll be doing research into seeing if setting Substance to be non-compressed will be bad. I mean, it's not ideal because if it was ideal, you probably wouldn't even have this option. So let me just see what this looks like. See what the stone blocks look like when they are when they're uncompressed. So this is compressed. That is uncompressed. It is a lot clearer. Hey, isn't that great? Also looks like it messes with it a little bit, so if I change this back to compressed. It doesn't seem to mess with it there. I think I was getting a height bump again. Wow. Okay, well, that's going to be fun. So a lot of art tweaking that needs to happen. I'm going to try to get that done before, I was going to say Sunday, before Thursday, because I think Thursday we'll be going over more programming stuff and making sure that everything works from the start of the scene, or the start of the game up through the sewer level, at least. Or at the very least that you can get from the start of the game. So boot up, splash screen, all the way to the sewer level, and we'll see what we can do from there. In the meantime, I'm going to be experimenting with art, mostly textures and light, to try and spruce this up, make it look nice, and we'll see what we get from there. So that'll do it for me on the stream tonight. Sorry it's a little early. It's barely even been an hour. But sometimes we have short streams, I suppose. So that'll be it for me tonight. As always, thank you